Okay, let me see if my sound is okay today. Hi, welcome. If you are watching the restream, I've had sound issues, so I'm doing some testing. Okay. Hi, I'm doing some sound testing. Okay, it sounds much better. I was. Oh, stop. Ah, weird. Hello. Okay. Okay. I think it sounds a lot better. Go. Huh? Hold on. Let me just check this. Oh, the echo was me. I was watching I was watching myself on my computer to make sure it sounded okay because I Hi. Okay, now I sound okay. I'm the reason I was having sound issues. I am streaming on my phone because I've been having connection issues, which I'm trying to fix. So here we are. How are you guys today? Hi, Carl. Okay, I'm happy that the echo was. I know what the echo was. Cool. Hello. I'm doing really good. I actually picked I picked some fresh vegetables this morning. There's a garden outside where I'm staying, and I picked. Sorry, I'm moving my microphone. And I picked some fresh cucumbers. They were really, really good. It's so nice to pick your own vegetables. Yeah, this is quite crazy. And I'll get into the meat of it in just a second. But I really wanted to start talking about this because I voted Democrat up until 2020. Um, 2016 is when and if you haven't heard my story, if you go on my homepage on YouTube, my main video is my story about how I walked away from the Democratic Party. So the funny thing about that is if you would have presented this bill to me 6 years ago, I would have said, "What's the big deal?" And I wanted first before we get into the 14 rhinos. Yes, I walked away. Before we get into the 14 rhinos, and trust me, I have all of that right here and a little bit of the meat as far as exactly what this bill is. I sort of want to tell you some things that happened in my actual life or things that I learned along the way before I actually, labeled myself a Republican that really made me change my mind on self defense and the Second Amendment. And I think it's important to come from that perspective because when you're trying to educate people or get people to calm down and say no, the Second Amendment is very important. I think it's important to come with real life examples or come from the perspective of I used to be someone that again like 6 years ago I would have looked at this bill and said, "What's the problem? We do need more gun control, right? Because we have all these shootings and it's scary. We should limit how people get guns." And then I sort of educated myself and I had actual real life experiences. So let me tell you a few of those things. And I got a lot more serious about self defense way before I labeled myself a Republican. And it's because of these real life experiences. The first thing that happened was before I moved to California, when I was living in Denver, Colorado, I woke up. I locked my doors every night. I had moved into this. It was a really big, it was kind of like a house. It was a duplex, but it was huge. So I looked at it as a house, but we were connected to another house. I lived in Denver, Colorado, in this duplex, and the front of the duplex looked out to a main road. The back of it, there were 4 parking spaces, and they were always completely filled because the person we shared the duplex with, he had several cars, always had friends over. So even if we weren't home, like there were just always a ton of cars parked in our parking area. And we always used the back as a main door. And again, everything was always locked. I always felt safe there, like someone was always in the place. But even then, I woke up one night, it was a Wednesday night at 4 a.m., to someone in my home. I was upstairs, so the way that my duplex was, I was upstairs in my bedroom asleep, and I woke up hearing someone in the room next to me, which was my boyfriend's office at the time. So I heard this like rustling around, and I listened for a little bit. Actually, the first thing I heard was footsteps. Now I remember. So I woke up and I heard footsteps, and they sounded like they were going out of my bedroom towards the bathroom, which was at the other end of the hallway. And I'm half asleep. I'm still not with it. So immediately I thought, oh, my boyfriend got up to go to the bathroom. And then I looked next to me and he was there. So I'm like, okay. And then my mind goes to, okay, maybe it's my neighbor. Remember, we have that duplex, and sometimes you could hear him walking around. It was a really old building. But then I started hearing the rustling around, and I think the person even like switched the light on and off in that room, and I was like, "Oh gosh, something is going on." And of course, I'm Sarah, so my mind was, it's haunted. I knew it this whole time. It's haunted. Um, but then I kept listening. I'm like, okay, this isn't right. So I woke up my boyfriend. He went to check, and then I started hearing him talking. Anyway, it ended up fine. It was some like 19 or 20-year-old kid that was just trying to steal a bunch of stuff to go sell. The weird thing is, okay, anyway, what I'm saying is every night we locked everything. Come to find, there was a window that I had never opened. The guy was going down the street looking for windows or doors that were open. He found an open window in our living room and came through like over the couch and then came upstairs and tried to rob us. Oh, he ended up leaving. So my boyfriend caught him, and he didn't even, we actually did have a gun, but he didn't bring it with him because our minds are like, how would anyone break in? It just didn't seem, the way the house was set up, the way that there's tons of car, like it just didn't seem like it was possible that someone would break in, especially that quietly. We didn't hear anything. We didn't hear a window break. We didn't hear anyone try to get through our door. So my boyfriend, what ended up happening is he said, "Hey man, just leave. Just leave." Because he went in the bedroom, or he went in that spare room. He saw the guy trying to hide like against the wall, like that was going to work. Saw his shadow and just said, "Hey man, you got to go." And we got really lucky because this kid was just some dumb kid. I don't know if he was high, I don't know. But he ended up just taking all these electronics out of his pocket that he tried to steal. And he ended up leaving. And this is where it got really weird. He was like the nicest criminal. He walks him downstairs and he's like, "Man, just go. Just go." And the guy was like, "Just so you know, I came in through that window." And he tried to hug my boyfriend. But anyway, he ended up leaving. We called the cops. They came. I was a mess. Um, and what was odd is the window that he came in through, I had never even opened that window, so I just assumed it was locked. The whole time we lived there, that window was unlocked. I had just never opened it, so I think I just assumed it was locked, and I never checked it because we just didn't use that window, but that's how he came in. Anyway, the cops came. They were really nice. They were really concerned because he came into the house when we were there, and I think they charged him with burglary because we were in the house. So they're going to assume that even though he wasn't armed, even though he didn't try to hurt anyone, they assume that he was going to try to hurt just because we're in their house. That's just what they do. Um, but he ended up being caught because he's a dumb criminal. So he did get charged. I don't know if he faced jail time or whatever. But I'm just saying, my sense of security, he wasn't armed. It ended up good. We were really lucky. But my sense of security was really flipped upside down. When someone robs you or mugs you or anything like that, you realize how vulnerable you are. And you realize it's so violating. Anyway, that happened. Okay. And then I moved to California. And I'm living in Los Angeles. I'm starting to see more and more homeless individuals that clearly are, whether they're on drugs or mentally ill, they're unhinged. Starting to see more and more homeless people just walking around the street. I have a governor who is all for open borders and sanctuary cities. He's soft on crime. And, I break up with my boyfriend. Now all of a sudden, I'm a single girl living in an apartment, feeling like, okay, how do I protect myself? Anyone can break in. I don't have my boyfriend here to protect me. I'm sort of just on my own right now. So safety is obviously on my mind a lot more than it was when I lived with my boyfriend. So this happens, and then we elect District Attorney George Gascon. So here's the scenario in Los Angeles. You have a governor that is all for sanctuary cities. You have a mayor that's for sanctuary cities. You have a governor that also is letting prisoners out of jail, that wants criminal justice reform in the sense that he wants to let tons of people out of jail, which he did. He released like 70,000 prisoners. And then you have a district attorney that doesn't prosecute crime, right? And then you have the defunding of the police. And then you have our sheriff in Los Angeles is speed. He made an announcement that, hey, you guys, you know what the truth of the matter is? With all these people being let out of jail, with the district attorney not prosecuting crime, with the defunding of the police, with the increase in crime, I cannot guarantee you that we can protect you. So what we are going to do is we are going to rush through concealed carry permits or something like that. He said we're going to rush those through, and he issued a lot of them during this time. This was just a year or two ago, because he said you need to protect yourself, because with everything that's going on right now, I can't guarantee you that I'm going to protect you. And this is what happened in Uvalde. We now know that this school shooting was used as, but anyway, before we get to Uvalde, what I'm saying is I realized how important self-defense. I realized then that the government, that your elected officials, that your police officers are not always going to be able to protect you. And that's a reality that a lot of liberal people do not understand, or they fail to acknowledge. And it's what's really interesting in Uvalde is it's almost like we live in two separate worlds. Like we're watching two different movies, because on one end, they're using that as sort of the propeller to say, we need to push through gun control laws because look what happened. This crazy person got a hold of a gun and went to this school, and look what happened. And it's a terrible tragedy. On the other token, you see the failure of the police department, because now we know the timeline a lot better and what actually happened in that school. We know that the cops cowered. We know that they were standing there not doing anything while these things were happening to these kids. We also now know, and this is one of the saddest things, that this just came out. So, shocking testimony from the Texas DPS director on Tuesday has revealed even more insight into the abject failure of response to the Uvalde shooting that occurred on May 24th. Texas Department of Public Safety Director Stephen McCraw revealed that the husband of slain elementary teacher Eva Morales tried to save her but was barred from doing so. Ruben Ruiz is a police officer for the school district and was on the scene after the gunman entered the school and opened fire. McCraw said Morales called Ruiz and told him that she had been shot and was dying. And what happened to him as he tried to move forward in the hallway, McCraw said, he was detained and they took his gun away from him and escorted him off the scene. McCraw didn't say who specifically detained him. So you have such a massive failure from law enforcement protecting these kids. I don't know what they would have done, but I know that it's more than them just standing there and detaining people from actually trying to protect. Imagine being that woman's husband and getting that message, and then and being a police officer for the school district, and they detain you and take your weapon away. Again, it's like two different realities. You have 2A advocates that are saying this is why we need to protect ourselves, because it's clear that the government, that police officers are not going to always be able to protect you. And in what capacity are you sure that they are able to protect you, and that they will when push comes to shove? You are relying on other people. You don't know if they're going to cower. You don't know if they're going to make a mistake. You don't know if they're just going to stand there and not do anything. And I'm someone that is very, very pro police, but there is no guarantee that anyone in this life is going to be able to protect you. But again, on the other side of that, you have liberals saying, well, this is reason that we need to push more legislation. There's another thing that happened that is not even related to Uvalde. This didn't even happen anytime soon. I don't know if you guys know about this, but this was so disturbing to me. And this is why, the Constitution was made. We have all of these amendments to protect citizens from government overreach. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to protect them. It's not just about, my guns or all this or all that. It's the Constitution was specifically made to protect people from the government. And this is an example. One, the police officer stopped this man and took his gun. This is something else that happened, and I don't know if you guys know that this happened. I was not aware of this happen. I was not aware of this. Do you remember Hurricane Katrina? It was awful. How could you forget? It was in 2005. What happened in New Orleans? People were stuck and stranded out there for days. Let me just read you this little paragraph, because this is something that happened during Katrina. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina striking New Orleans in 2005, local authorities, led by then Mayor Ray Nagin, did the unthinkable. They ordered the confiscation of firearms from law-abiding citizens. Social order had broken down and civilians were largely on their own because no one was there to protect them. Nagin, no one was there to protect them. And a lot of people were looting and going and stealing stuff. So the government and police officers just came in and took people's guns. I remember seeing an interview with an elderly woman who was trying to protect herself in her home with her gun. They confiscated her gun. So if you don't think that these things can really happen, it has happened. And it has happened to elderly women in the most vulnerable of times. If they are going to do that to an elderly woman, what was the 2005 gun grab? The Great New Orleans gun grab tells the story of New Orleans residents who legally defied mandatory evacuation orders to protect their property and who were subsequently beaten, harassed, and robbed of their guns by the very civil authority that was funded and charged to protect them. All right, so let's look at this red flag law. First of all, here's how Americans feel about it, and then we'll look at the senators. With the so-called red flag gun laws looming in many state legislators, possibly on the federal level, a new poll suggests the majority of independents and Republicans, and yes, even some Democrats, believe those laws could pave the way for government officials to abuse and disarm their citizens. Convention of States Actions, a grassroots movement of about 2.4 million supporters, to restore self-governance in America conducted a new national survey in partnership with polling from the Trafalgar True and Under Pressure. The T Group, which asked more than 1,000 likely 2022 election voters about such laws that the Democrats and yes, even some Republicans are working to advance in the Senate. Government officials at all levels have spent the last 2 years demonizing their opponents and using whatever means possible to censor or threaten those who disagree with them. So the idea that we should now trust those same people to not abuse the law that could infringe on basic constitutional rights is laughable. This is true. I've seen things over the past few years that I never thought I would see. They have demonized their political opponents to the point where people have been deplatformed. Paying money institutions wanted people off their platforms. The survey asked respondents whether or not they believe that red flag gun control laws would cause a slippery slope for government and law enforcement to abuse their authority by disarming political opponents and or citizens who disagree with them. Survey results showed that 72.2% of Republicans, 52.3% of independents, and 16.4% of Democrats believe the powers that be would potentially abuse those laws. However, 14.1% of Republicans, 23.3% of independents, and 53.5% of Democrats believe there is no risk of government officials and local authorities abusing red flag gun laws, leaving the remainder undecided. Americans want real workable solutions to the mass shootings that we are seeing in this nation, but it's obvious that they don't see the proposed red flag laws as the answer. No, I don't see that as the answer. More and more Americans are coming to the conclusion that the government abuses any power it's given and that they are responding accordingly. Earlier this week, more than a dozen Republican senators, including John Cronin, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, joined majority Democrats to pass a procedural vote, 64-34, of the controversial 80-page legislation 2 hours after the bill began circulating. Okay, so technically you can read an 80-page bill 2 hours after it circulates, but you can't think about, okay, what could this mean? Because there's always unintended consequences. So some of these red flag laws are like the boyfriend law, which if somebody is convicted of domestic abuse, they can't obtain a firearm. And then you have mental health things. So, but what does that mean? What if it is a veteran who is getting help for PTSD? Can he not own a firearm? Or what if it's someone that is getting help for depression? Can they not own a firearm? Fox News reported that the bill would provide grants to states that adopt their own red flag laws and offer additional funding for school safety measures and mental health services. The measure also creates penalties for straw purchases of firearms, requires more gun sellers to register as federally licensed firearm dealers, and closes the so-called boyfriend loophole by prohibiting gun access for people convicted of domestic abuse against an intimate partner. And what do they mean by intimate partner? The National Association for Gun Rights posted a tweet Tuesday that accused 9 out of the top 11 highest NRA-funded Republican senators of selling out Americans' gun rights. The senators include Mitt Romney, Richard Burr, Roy Blunt, Thom Tillis, Joni Ernst, Rob Portman, Todd Young, Bill Cassidy, and Pat Toomey. The bill is expected to pass later this week. Well, it did. More than a dozen Republicans joined a largely Democrat effort to advance gun control bill in the Senate on Tuesday night. The bill could be passed later this week by the Senate and then move on to the House where it is expected to pass. The bill would then go to President Biden's desk. Notably, the 80-page legislation includes language on highly controversial so-called red flag laws. According to Fox News, the bill provides grants for states that implement their own red flag laws and offers additional funding for both school safety and mental health services. Cronin, though, claimed that Senator Floor Tuesday that the bill would not create a national red flag law, adding that the states could receive the funding regardless of whether they enact such a program. The measure also creates penalties for straw purchases of firearms, requires more gun sellers to register as federally licensed firearm dealers, and closes the boyfriend loophole. Gun rights groups are already slamming the legislation, and the Republicans who have helped advance it. Gun Owners of America said in a press release sent to the Daily Wire that the legislation would encourage backdoor universal background checks by redefining many private sellers as gun dealers, finding red flag laws, and would allow for so-called enhanced background checks, which are arbitrary delays in transferring firearms to adults not yet 21 years of age. Once again, so-called conservative senators are making clear they believe that the rights of American citizens can be compromised anyway. Let me be clear, they have no authority to compromise with our rights, and we will not tolerate legislators who are willing to turn gun owners into second-class citizens. GOA fully opposes this unconstitutional legislation and will continue to encourage our millions of members to make their voices heard to their elected officials on this bill. Someone said this just goes to show that those leading the GOP are not serious about representing their voters or standing up for the Constitution. I don't know about all of you, but it's past time for a new party. And here's the thing, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you want to have a conversation about these things, we can have a conversation. But when you have an administration who has our border completely open, who is allowing fentanyl over our border, which kills over 150 people a day. Thank you very much, Brady. And the GOP, they sold us out too many times. Give the LP a chance. The Libertarian Party, thank you for that super chat. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that I always talk about. Not to take it all the way back to Donald Trump, but that's what Trump really, whether you love Trump or you hate him, he exposed a lot of issues within the party and sort of pulled the curtain back. Obviously, this is very telling, but I really do think that he pulled that back a while ago because there are a lot of Republicans that also didn't want him in office. He's not an establishment, or he's not a part of the establishment. But yeah, these things are scary, and what happened in Louisiana it's shocking and it's scary. And that just goes to show you how quickly things like this can happen. And these same people are advocating for our borders to be completely open. So you're letting people in unvetted. You are for defunding of the police. You are for progressive DAs who don't prosecute crimes. You let people out of jail, and then you want to take law-abiding citizens' gun rights away. And I think there are conversations that we can have around guns. There was something that was done under the Trump administration, and it was called Operation Legend, where they were going into the inner cities and they were buying back guns from people. They got hundreds of guns off the streets. They put away a lot of felons, a lot of bad guys. And Operation Legend was actually started because of a young boy in Kansas City. He was 4 years old, and he was shot and killed while he was sleeping in his bed at home in his apartment. And it was crossfire from, I believe it was a gang member or something who was doing a drive-by, and a bullet came through the apartment. But stuff like this happens all the time, and I am all for stuff like that, getting illegal guns off the street. But the truth of the matter is, when you pass legislation like this, you're not getting the illegal guns off. You're not restricting illegal guns. You're restricting legal guns to legal gun owners. And again, it's the same people that don't like stop and frisk. It's the same people who pass things like in Chicago. This is pretty crazy. You see. Okay, sorry. I'm pulling up. I think I have this on my Twitter, what Chicago just did. So in Chicago, if you're an officer, you are no longer able to chase a perpetrator on foot. Yeah, here we go. Chicago. And by the way, keep in mind who the mayor of Chicago is. It's Lori Lightfoot, who blames everything on guns and the Second Amendment, but not over her soft on crime policies. The Chicago Police Department has unveiled a new policy prohibiting its officers from chasing people on foot simply because they run away or because they have committed minor offenses. So they'll just allow these people to run into your neighborhood. The policy, which was introduced Tuesday, also encourages cops to consider alternatives to pursuing someone who is visibly armed with a firearm. It's unbelievable. Okay, let me just reread that. I think we need to read that again. The policy, which was introduced on Tuesday, also encourages cops to consider alternatives to pursuing someone who is visibly armed with a firearm. These are the same people, you guys. It's important to know this because I know who's in charge of Chicago. These are the same people. The same people that support what is being passed in the Senate right now are the same people that support this BS. This right here is one of the reasons why I'm so pro 2A and pro self-defense. It's your policies. And you know what? I might be, if I actually trusted the government, if I actually, first of all, trusted their intentions, even with everything minus public safety, if I actually trusted them, and if they actually had good policies that kept people safe, if they closed the borders, if they prosecuted crime, but they do, excuse my language, they do shit like this. And that's why people don't trust them. And that's why people are so pro 2A. Also encourages cops to consider alternatives to pursuing someone who is visibly armed with a firearm. How are you supposed... So this person he just committed a crime. He's armed with a firearm. He's running away. He's running away and he's coming in my neighborhood. And the cop's not going to do anything. So what am I supposed to do? Just be a sitting duck, I guess. Maybe go out there with a clipboard and ask him how he's feeling. Same people. And like I said, I thought that Operation Legend, I thought that was amazing. They went to Chicago, they went to Kansas City, they went to all these inner cities, and they got hundreds of illegal guns off the streets. They put bad guys behind bars. They found the person that did that to Little Legend, the 4-year-old who was in his bed. I'm totally for that. But this is now infringing on law-abiding citizens. And imagine, too, if you are somebody who owns a firearm and you know, like, you're having, okay, I'm suffering from depression, or you're a veteran and you're like, I need to go get help for my PTSD. But wait a second, are they now going to, if I go get help, am I going to be flagged? And then who does this hurt more than anyone? This hurts the middle class and the lower income people, because what this does is if you are flagged, they can move to temporarily take your gun, and then you have to go and get it back somehow. I think my cat's here. Hold on. Let me go get her. Eva! Come here. Come in. Now, you know the rules. You have to say hello. If you knock on the door, you have to say hi. Those are the rules. Say hello. Hi. She likes her... Ow! She likes her neck rubbed. Okay. Under the policy, officers may give chase if they believe a person is committing or is about to commit a felony. But okay, if somebody is running with a gun, I'm going to assume that there's not good intentions. I don't even think you should have to consider whether the person is going to commit something or not. If someone is running away from a cop and they're armed, I think officers should go after them. Perhaps most significantly, the policy makes clear that the days of officers giving chase just because someone tries to get away is far from over. They're just literally making a joke out of the police officers, is what they're doing. People may avoid contact with a member for many reasons other than involvement in criminal activity. The long-awaited foot chase ban is expected to go in effect by the end of the summer after the city's 12,000 ununiformed cops receive training. Oh, uniformed. Why did I say ununiformed? This is, again, like, this is what bothers me because we demonize law enforcement, which I'm sure, like, there were instances of, so you had the policy comes more than a year after two pursuits ended with cops fatally shooting 13-year-old Adam Toledo, 22-year-old Anthony Alvarez. I believe, hold the phone, I believe one of these people was armed. Hold on, I'm looking this up. I think I remember this video. Hello. Hello. Yeah. Mayor Lori Lightfoot demanded that the department create an interim policy after the March 2021 shootings of the county's top prosecutor harshly criticized over the Alvarez pursuit. So that's one of them. I think my issue is too, like, we have a lot of emotional reactions to things that happens, and then we put policy forth, and there are unintended consequences of these policies, and it emboldens all the wrong people. Speaking of all of this, hold on. This article just came out about George Gascon in Los Angeles. And again, so George Gascon, the district attorney in Los Angeles, he's one of the rogue Soros district attorneys. He had a lot to say after Uvalde and was calling for gun control, but is also releasing dangerous criminals all the time that go on and commit more crimes. And here's another example of this. This just came out today. It's just unbelievable. Listen, this and Gascon, he was calling for more gun control. Gascon policy blamed for man's release from life prison term before arrest and killing of Pakioma transient. A man arrested of the slaying of a transient and what are you doing? Oh, she's in her house. How do you pronounce that? Pakioma. It's Pacoima. Pacoima was released from prison last year after serving just 8 years of a life sentence for a double murder because District Attorney George Gascon refused to transfer his case from juvenile to adult court, the Southern California News Group has learned. Victor Bibiano, 30, was taken into custody last month for the April 16th killing of 42-year-old Mario Rodriguez, who was found shot at a transient encampment at Dronefield Avenue and Terabella Street in the foothills of Pacoima. Bibiano was 17 when the two co-defendants were convicted in adult court in 2012 when the killing of two rival Pacoima gang members and the wounding of a third in 2009. Bibiano was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for a special circumstance double murder, attempted murder, and shooting of a firearm at an inhabited dwelling, as well as gun and gang enhancements, according to court records. He was released from prison in 2021. We extend our deepest sympathies to the loved ones of Mario Rodriguez, Gascon said in a statement Tuesday, adding that a preliminary investigation has revealed that the homicide occurred during a robbery and a drug deal. We have charged Victor Bibiano in connection with the crime, although the evidence to date suggests that he did not personally shoot or kill Mr. Rodriguez. As it is an open case, we cannot discuss the facts in any greater detail. Gascon also acknowledged the criticism of his policies, which detractors have characterized as soft on crime, but he said it is important to stay the course to reform the criminal justice system. Oh, he did the same exact thing. So he was released in 2021, and now he's being charged with a murder that happened in April when he was released early from a life sentence under Gascon's policy. This is one more thing that happened as a direct result of Gascon's policies, and yet he still has the nerve to come out and talk about gun control. And then if you criticize him, if you criticize George Gascon, what he'll tell you is we need to stay the course of reform because his ideology is way more important than actual reality that's just slapping him across the face left and right and left and right and is robbing people of their loved ones. Also with George Gascon, so he was criticized. Two El Monte police officers were shot. This is in LA County and killed. And it was another instance of people being released early without bail under George Gascon, the guy that killed these two officers. He should have been in jail, is the criticism. And their families have come out and said that we blame George Gascon for this. The man should have been in jail. And this is what George Gascon had to say in response to that. He says, "We have been down the road of being scared and reacting harshly. Harsh incarceration and punishment never made us safer, and many would say we are here because of past mistakes. I understand how difficult this is, but we urge all to ensure we don't overreact." That's what he had to say after families criticized him of the policies that let out the man that killed the 2 El Monte police officers. Well, now the people of El Monte actually all voted and voted a no confidence in George Gascon. He's just doing nothing but ensuring that he will get recalled, in my opinion. I hope he does. No, he is. And it's every time he gets criticized, he says stuff like that. So we can't try telling a family member that is grieving someone who's no longer here not to overreact. That is one of the most insulting things that you can say. That's like being actually it's a bazillion time worse, but it's like when you're mad and someone tells you to calm down. Except this is an actual human life. So here's Joe Biden today. He says, "Today I'm calling on Congress to suspend the federal gas tax for the next 90 days through the busy summer season." Okay. Um cool, but what does that do for the long term? Like he's still not drilling anymore. There's still no production going on. So, okay. Here's Joe Biden. "For Republicans criticizing me for high gas prices in America, are you now saying that we were wrong to support Ukraine and stand up for Putin? Are you saying that we'd rather have lower gas prices in America than Putin's iron fist in Europe?" Oh, this is just the go away. Okay. This is the playbook now. This is the Republican playbook. Anytime you're criticized, just try to shame people and make them feel guilty and gaslight them. That's what they do. Now, if you that's what George Gascon does and that's what Joe Biden does. If you criticize me, I'm going to gaslight you. Let's read that again. "For all the Republicans criticizing me for high gas prices in America, are you now saying that we were wrong to support Ukraine and stand up to Putin? Are you saying that we'd rather have lower gas prices in America than Putin's iron fist in Europe?" This is what they do. You criticize, they gaslight. You criticize, they gaslight. That's what they do. Herding, move the herd. No. Cernovich, Democrats win the elections by denying reality and censoring the truth. It's their only path to victory, hence why they lie and deplatform the honest and courageous. Inflation is a mother effer, though, very propaganda resistant. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what they do. They deny, literally is what they do. That's not an exaggeration. They deny reality, and then they want to censor dissent. They want to censor people that are questioning that reality. But that's a great point. You can't censor through and deplatform inflation. Like, that's just something you can't escape from. You can't escape from inflation. You can't escape from these high gas prices. I just read an article, and I can't for the life of me remember where it was from, but most people are not even watching the January 6th hearing. So they're pulling everything out of their back pocket that they can. January 6th. Look over here. Nobody cares about January 6th. Literally nobody. And I think they really thought that they were going to use that to demonize Republicans even more. And it's just not working. Even CNN. Let me see if I can play this. Never forget. We will rebuild. We will. I mean, they're forcing CNN to be honest. That's when you know it's bad. Oh, I want this to play. I don't know if it's going to. Well, I don't think that's going to play, but I'll just tell you what it says. So this is even CNN is basically saying, so that's Biden's thing now. He's going to suspend gas tax for the next 90 days. They're calling it like a tax holiday or gas holiday, whatever. But even CNN is saying this does absolutely nothing. I mean, I don't know the reality of how much it'll bring gas prices down in the short term, but what we really need to do is produce more oil. No, they're not tarot cards. They're like God cards. They all have like little scriptures on them. And I love to 18 cents. So it'll bring it down 18 cents a gallon. Oh, I got a message. Let's see what it says. When they pop out, I say it's a message. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Jeremiah 29:11. And literally, no one's buying the Putin thing, I don't think. Even Democrats. Yeah, he's still saying it. Biden on record gas prices. Let's remember how we got here. Putin invaded Ukraine, but gases were on the rise long before Russia invaded Ukraine. That's true. So I'm calling on Congress to suspend the federal gas tax for the next 90 days. See, but he does stuff like this, and then he'll can I play this?
$1 billion in public transit and rail. For all the studies show that it will take millions of cars off the road and significantly reduce pollution. Enough oil. And I know my Republican friends claim we're not producing enough oil, and I'm limiting oil production. Quite frankly, that's nonsense. I know my Republican friends claim we're not producing enough oil, and I'm limiting oil production. Quite frankly, that's nonsense.
Biden, let's remember how he got in here. Putin invaded Ukraine. Okay, we already know. the thing is, he suspended leases in. Yeah, thank you for saying that. 11 refineries were shut down under Biden. Yeah, and he rejoining the Paris Climate Accord. How do you know Biden is lying? His lips are moving. All right, this is CNN.
In 2008, this President Obama called this a gimmick when he was asked about it during the campaign in 2008. This gas tax, freeze. Can you give us a reality check? What's actually going to happen here for the American consumer?
Well, Erica, President Obama called it a gimmick because, as almost any economist, Democrat or Republican, can tell you, it is a gimmick. It doesn't solve the underlying problem, which is driving up gas prices. To the extent it succeeds in lowering them a bit, it's likely to encourage people to drive more, which will create an offsetting boost in demand and push the price up and obviate that benefit.
President Obama called this a gimmick when he was asked about it during...
And this is CNN, people. This is CNN. So... yeah. Yeah, like I said, okay, maybe it'll lower it for a little bit, but then people are going to be driving more. The issue is we need to produce more oil in the U.S. That's supply demand. That's why prices go up. That's what happens with inflation on anything. As someone said something about a bicycle. He can't even ride a bicycle. Guys, the bicycle, when he fell, was stopped. He fell off the bicycle when it was stationary. He should... Time to go back to riding horses and donkeys. Did you know I actually learned that horses, they caused a lot of pollution because of their horse poop. So in New York City, you know how everyone has those little drains that go under their houses? That was to drain all the horse poop that would pile up on the streets. Think about it. Hold on. The New York horse manure crisis of 1894. New York had over 100,000 horses producing over 2.5 million pounds of manure every day. Fossil fuel-powered trains, electric, steel cars, and internal combustion vehicles were seen as the clean energy alternative. Even in the UK, the Great Horse Manure Crisis of that was the UK. Isn't that crazy? Electric steel cars and internal combustion vehicles were seen as the clean energy alternative. The huge number of horses created major problems. The main concern was the large amount of manure they left behind on the streets. The Great Manure Crisis. The problem, this is in London. The problem came to head in 1894. The Times newspaper predicted in 50 years, every street in London will be buried under 9 feet of manure. This became known as the Great Horse Manure Crisis of 1894. Wow, how many horses? That is so funny. Oh, here it is. I told you I was right. How horse poop inspired the New York City stoop. Today, I can't believe I remembered this. Scoop and sell. Okay, come on. No. Today excuse me. I hate it when a website has a billion ads okay. Today, when we see romantic stoops rise from the sidewalk to the second-story parlor, we don't necessarily associate them with fecal matter. But flashback to the 1800s and you'll meet a very different New York where almost 5 million pounds of manure were being dumped on the city streets every day. We can imagine how this would affect our commute to the office. At the rate horse dung was accumulating, it was predicted by the year 1930, horse manure would reach the level of Manhattan's third-story windows, with poop literally lining the streets. Stoops became an important part of New York City's architecture. Ew. According to an article in New Yorker from 2009, piles of horse poop lined the streets like banks of snow, at times reached as high as 60 feet. Come summer, the smell was so overbearing, and when it rained, poop rivers... And when it rained, poop rivers flooded the streets and sidewalks, often seeping into people's basements. The stoop is a very specific architectural detail that was adapted from Dutch styles to cope with flooding. Yes, you do need to learn this. The stoop is a very specific architectural detail that was adapted from Dutch styles. Where did it go? To cope with flooding, an event quite common in the Netherlands, where much of the country's land sits below sea level. However, it quickly realized that New York City did not... Excuse me. This website keeps loading ads, and it keeps pushing down where I'm reading. New York City did not suffer from the same water issues, but being higher from horse poop was the benefit that no one could have predicted for the stoop, just as stoops have become an important element in neighborhood socialization. As a result, the design proliferated. New York City has been around for a while, and each building and brick has a story to tell. Read more about the history of New York here in The New Yorker. Yeah, I probably should. I didn't really know that website. But yeah, that was a problem back in the day. Could you imagine back in the day being afraid that you're going to be that your city's going to be under 9 feet of poop? Poop stoop. It literally is a poop stoop. All right, well, I think I'm done. I might be back later tonight. Fairy tale horses are 15. That's a lot of poop. It's a lot of poop. But imagine that was your impending crisis. And it's so funny that that was seen as an energy or that was seen as an environmental issue. Ugh. All right. Well, everyone have a good afternoon. Are you here? Okay, I just got a weather alert on my phone that we are going to have 90 per hour winds, and it said to take shelter in a sturdy place. So, I'm going to continue to take shelter on that note. Anyway, I'll probably be live later on tonight now that I know my sign. 90 per hour poop on Biden's. Good thing Eva's in here now. Darn it, I was going to go shopping this afternoon. All right, so hopefully everything will be fine. I'm sure it will be. We've had a lot of storms lately. Yeah, I'll be back if I haven't been blown away. So hopefully I will not blow away in the wind, and I'll be back later. Barricade in the central bathroom. I think hopefully we'll be, the only thing weird about like where I'm sitting right now, I'm in front of a window. So I just always stay away from this window because there's a huge tree right here. And we had a storm one day, and this giant branch out of the tree hit the side of the house pretty hard. It was very alarming, but I try to stay away from this window because of that tree. Other than that, we're pretty good. All right, you all. Well, have a good afternoon. I'll probably be back around 8:30 tonight. I'll announce. I'll put it on the community tab. Okay, bye you all. See you later.